Welcome, listeners, to Gamer Headlines' Spoilercast. As the name suggests, Spoilercast is an in-depth discussion on all the best and worst story moments in a recently released title. This is not recently released, but I'm doing it anyway. Fuck the rules.
I think it is. I mean, it was released, like, late August? That's, like, almost 2 months? It's like a month and a half. I'll take that, Adnan.
Fuck the rules. Anyway, so I'm one of your co-hosts, Adnan Riaz. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, Chris Cortez.
Dude, that was so NWP of you. Fuck the rules. Yeah, and the police while we're at it. Yeah. Sorry. I need to see that movie, by the way. I've yet to see it.
Yeah,
You're like, how do I go about this? Anyway, let's.
I was going to do a Bane voice, but I kind of stopped halfway.
When you finish this podcast, you have my permission to watch NWP. Or whatever it's called, I can't remember. Yeah, dude, but this is great. I know this is something. Can we kind of give a little bit of background on Until Dawn?
Yeah, please do, because I feel like this is like really one of my biggest regrets of 2015 so far.
Yeah, it's really funny. Okay, so basically, I'm making a film called Drunk Max 2, and it requires me to sometimes be drunk for either filming, editing, whatever. And so I was drunk one day, and my wife was not home to corral me, because I'm like a mad cow running around, and my wife is like the sheepdog or whatever. And so I was alone in the house, and I was really fucking drunk, and apparently I drunk bought 2 items, a Star Wars calendar and Until Dawn, pre-owned. So I told Adnan, dude, I bought this game drunk, and I knew of it, obviously, and I wanted to play it eventually, but I'm like, I guess I should play it now. I drunk bought it, and I ended up one of the greatest drunk purchases I've ever made. It was such we'll get into it, but I loved it. And so Adnan said, you know what, man, I'm fucking doing it too. Because Adnan, you were like, you really wanted to buy it when it first came out, but I think you passed on it because of, like, Metal Gear was coming out.
Yeah, and Gears Ultimate Edition. 3 games which like, I was so excited about, 2 of which I haven't bought. Well, I have bought 2. I bought 2 out of 3 of them now, but one of, at the time I only bought 1 of them, which was kind of really upsetting. I was like, why couldn't they be a bit more spaced out?
Yeah, seriously. But yeah, so we finally did it. We finally both played the game. And I think we're on pretty equal grounds with the game. I know Adnan, like, platinumed it. and I've done like 3 different playthroughs, one of which was a playthrough in which all of them survived. So I think we have a pretty good we're on pretty good terms, I think, to talk about this game. I think we're prepared for this podcast.
I got a platinum trophy. I have more than the certificates to put my name behind this.
Yeah, and it's like more than certified for this podcast.
Yeah.
So you guys have our credentials. Let's proceed forward. It was, I mean, dude, on the whole, I'm just gonna say on the whole, I fucking loved this game so much. It had a yeah.
No, I was going to read what you just said there. It's like, I mean, it's what I always wanted in a horror game.
Yeah,
in a long time.
Oh, totally. I mean, I think it has like a lot of cool like things to it, like it has like that Beyond Two Souls esque like cinematic feel that you could almost like think, is this like David Cage movie? Not movie. Wow, a David Cage game. But it also has like, I love the camera angles. It's very Resident Evil. It almost feels like the angles are what Resident Evil would have become had they stayed with like the fixed camera angles, or like the Code Veronica esque camera angles and stuff. So like that intrigued the shit out of me, and plus just the characters, they have like really, and we've mentioned this on our sister podcast, Gamer Headline Show, that the characters are just so fucking like they're so well performed, so well written, and the whole thing is like this beautiful homage to like horror films. It even takes like a turn at the end, like a really quick U-turn, and changes the whole, like, where you thought the game was going. It changes everything and becomes something else. Which, like, that's like a horror movie motif. And that's pretty much like my general feelings on it. I mean, I really dug the shit out of it.
Yeah, I've always said this by principle. I've always stood by. I feel like Telltale should always make a horror game. I think Heavy Rain for Quantic Dream was very close to it, 'cause it's more of a psychological horror game, or psychological thriller with a strong element of horror to it. I don't think it's full horror in the way you could probably describe it as a game. But I've always been a strong believer that Telltale was an example where they should do what Until Dawn did with using the horror convention in a game, because horror is where the kind of choices that Until Dawn presents you in most cases in the game is what you expect from a game where choices mean the most. Because what genre is more better than horror of amplifying choices? Because Until Dawn is both a serious horror game and also the equivalent of Scream, because it mocks itself, because it's almost like a meta piece, because it's like it's critiquing the fact that it's in a horror game, and it's like, you know what, we're going to put this like weird part where there's a weird noise and you can go and investigate it. And like, even I said that to Chris when I sent him a message, it's like, yep, actually we're not going investigating that noise, because obviously it is the biggest horror cliche possible. But yeah, I actually love the story though. I think like there were problems though. I think like getting to the actual story itself, I think like for me one of the biggest problems was I felt that it was too the story could have been more straightforward than what it was. It kind of turns from I think I said this, Chris, it has a Cabin in the Woods syndrome, where it basically turns from being Cabin in the Woods kind of like a comedy slash scary movie as well at the same time, so just being a full on horror movie. Because like it builds up, because like the entire point with Josh and stuff is just like a early filler stuff, and then the next part when the Wendigos hit, that's really where the story picks up.
Right.
So that was kind of like one of those points where I was like, it's kind of like iffy with the pacing. I was like, it could have been a bit better. I think it
has a great. I'll say I agree with you. The pacing is a bit on the weird side. Like I think the intro is brilliant, by the way, with Beth and Hannah, and like that you're playing as Beth and you go out and like you're trying to find her, and it's one of those intros that when you're initially playing it, you're scared shitless. And there's a lot of moments like this in the game, but when you go back and you replay it, you're like, oh my god, I get it now. You know what I mean? Like with the stranger character, like without knowing his story or his backstory or anything, you're like, oh my god, this guy's fucking with her. Like he's using his flamethrower to scare her. And then remember, like, and the game makes you think a particular way, with the way it's paced and like with the story threads and all that. And then as it can, sorry, I'm losing my train here. I feel like I tried to say 50 things at once right now. But like the intro, I think was great, well paced. It's a great introduction to like what the fuck's going on. And then you have it leads into the 1 year later or like 6 months later or whatever, where the main core of the game comes in. I think once that begins, like there's a moment, the Wendigo thing, like what you're talking about. I like how it comes out of nowhere, but I wish that it would have came out of nowhere near the middle of the game, just so that we would have had like more of an opportunity to dive into that history. Because really, if you think about it, there's only like 3 main areas of the game. If you don't, or areas that you could explore and like find information in. You have like the underground caverns. Huh?
Yeah, no, I was agreeing with you, yeah.
Yeah, like you have the underground caverns, the psych ward that's abandoned now, and the house. And like, you explore the shit out of those, but like, I don't know, I feel like there is like something else you could have done, like another area with like the Wendigos, maybe something underground underneath the I don't know. There is something that was like they could have expanded that a bit,
At the same time, I agree with it. At the same time, I don't, because I do understand there's a lot of backtracking. But again, it's 8 characters, so the characters are all over the place.
Right.
You do feel like, because you do keep coming across the same totems and stuff, because it's the fact that you are in a certain location. I think the problem is because when you reunite the characters, it does what Scream does, where it brings all the characters back to the finale, where the cabin is the big, the shut-off point. That's where the finale should be kept. Mm-hmm. I think like. With other things, like I think one of my biggest problems was that there's less character interactions than I thought there would be. More in the relationship meter that they give you. Kind of like the Telltale swing where it's like, he will remember that. They kind of built it into the game where basically, a character speaks with another one, and then you can, like, depending on what they do, they can affect their relationship with the other person, so it can decrease or increase. It also affects the personality. I feel like that wasn't really hugely, important into the game, because you kind of realize that, it's just a little bit of a kind of effect. I think there's two choices where it's really important. So one of them is, do you want Ashley, you have the choice to shoot Ashley or shoot yourself.
Oh,
as Chris.
Yeah.
If you decide to shoot Ashley, she will lock the door on you later when you get chased by the Wendigo.
Right, and man, Chris gets fucked up.
Yeah, so basically, yeah. Well, yes, Chris does get absolutely fucked up. So that's one of the examples, because her entire meter depletes, so it ruins the romantic attachment in that relationship.
Right.
So that was one example of where it is. But I mean, other than that, there's not really that many big ones. I think one of the biggest... Oh, God, sorry.
No, I was going to say there's also subtle ones, too, that don't have an overall impact, but at the same time kind of do. Like, I'll give you an example. My first playthrough, when you're walking to the cabin, you're playing as Mike, and Jessica's with you, and you're walking to the cabin. The first time I played it with my wife, Rebecca, we kept making, certain choices and stuff, and... when you get to the cabin, Jessica gets all the way down to her underwear and stuff, and things are going smooth for Mike.
Yeah.
But in my second playthrough, I purposely made the opposite decisions, and when I got to the cabin, Jessica's so not into Mike, super not into him, and keeps all of her clothes on. But then in my third playthrough, she takes off her jacket, but keeps her jeans and her t-shirt on.
By the way, in my one, she actually had the jacket and the shirt on, the shirt and the trousers, which says everything about me wooing someone. Clearly, the funny part is it's the opposite of Game of Thrones, where I got the marriage alliance and you guys didn't. Which is a really reverse factor. I'm like, really? Am I really this bad? Because I remember picking up the totem, and it shows she's in her underwear and stuff,
right,
and she's lying in that. But when she did that scene, she was in her clothes. I was like.
Yeah,
I was like, I didn't woo her properly, did I? I was like, right, okay, I might need to work on that next time.
It's the same thing, by the way. The only difference is there's
it's just the clothes.
Yeah, well, it's the clothes, and there's a little dialogue between them, right before, where she's like, I'm very insecure about myself, and it's so funny. As you could be. Yeah, you could be a dick with Mike and be like, "Oh, come on, let's." He says the same thing he says to Hannah, why don't we start with the making out and see where it goes? And she's like, "Oh my god!" That's his pickup line. That's Mike's. That's his thing that he uses.
See, this is the thing with the characters, but I actually really enjoy the characters, because when I played it, I was like, Mike's a douche. But at the end of the game, I found him I had a really fun attachment with Mike.
Yeah,
so I do think he's really fun. This is where one of their strong strengths are Supermassive games, where they have a great script behind them and great characters and great actors, because it really does make it that thing where I'm like, you know what, I like this character, I hate this character. It plays on so many horror conventions. You're like, I want that person to die next, but I want that person to survive, and maybe that person will live. And when you're pointing your finger around, you're like, this is what one of the great things about horror is, because you have to. Horror is built on character development. For me, it is. Right. I think one of the biggest thing is where each character has a purpose there, because if it's not, you can't have a film where it's one of those shit movies like Final Destination where you want everyone to die, because you're like, that's boring. The entire point is that kind of kills the convention of watching a movie. But I think, for me, one of the big red herrings of the game was the fact that I thought Hayden Panettiere was the lead character. Because I remember them using her in loads of promotion materials, and I think 6 chapters she has a bath for.
Yeah.
She has a bath for 6 chapters, and then you finally play it. I was like, fuck me. I was like, really? Maybe 4 or 5. I can't remember how many it was, but it's quite a lot of chapters. It's the longest bath in human history, in video game history.
That's what I told Rebecca. I'm like, that is the longest she's either dead, or she's really
or she's
enjoying
quiet.
Yeah,
she's just absorbing it.
She hasn't showered in or bathed in a week or something, and she's just really liking the bubbles and stuff.
Really loving that symphony music that's playing in the background. My god, that's the longest.
She heard 4 symphony albums during that whole time, just chilling and hanging out.
Yeah, I mean, that was that was one really weird thing, because I just thought Panettiere was going to lead the game, but at the same time,
I thought she was going to be the Ellen Page of the game. You know what I mean?
Ellen Page.
Because they did similar technique. They used her likeness and all the other things and whatnot. That's one thing I really wanted to bring up, by the way. I know this spoiler cast, we're supposed to concentrate on stories, but this is part of the story, I feel. I need to bring this up. I think Adnan doesn't agree with me, or I don't know how you feel about this, but I've told you before, I think Until Dawn Seriously, as of now, we're recording this. What is this? October 15th, 2015. As of right now, I think it's currently the best looking PS4 game out there right now. I really think it's like one of the best looking games. I have to
debate that.
Yeah, like the motion capturing. What is the joke we made? There's too much teeth. Like for some reason they show a lot of teeth. Like, but it's overall great. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not knocking the graphics. I think they're great. I think the renders are quite a little bit iffy on certain characters because it does make them look a little bit weird. And kind of like when they do, I think the close-up shots don't really work too well. I think it works better for games like Metal Gear, which for me is the best looking game so far, because the Fox engine really kind of like, because with Kojima's engine, it's all about Konami's engine, about getting light on the faces and kind of like bringing that into like, bring out textures and stuff. Right. While other cameras, you look at it and they kind of like show things, and it's kind of like makes the character look a little bit slanted on this side of the face or whatever else. Not knocking, I think it does look quite nice. I mean, like, one of the things playing it was like I had a very much a Resident Evil vibe due to the cameras being fixed.
Oh yeah,
in like certain places.
That's what I mentioned that earlier. Yeah, I think this would be the evolution. Like I think, dude, for Resident Evil 7, Capcom, please look at Until Dawn and do that. No more over the shoulder. Like, you know, we're done with that. Come on, do something else. You know. But yeah, dude, I totally agree. I think it's like, especially, you know, it's such a great use, and I wish they would do it more often. Remember when you're playing as Chris and you open, or I think it's Emily that opens the door, like the hidden door in the library, and then as Chris you go into it, and then all of a sudden you're seeing like a static, like a camera, like, and you realize, oh my god, that's what Josh is looking at. In his lair, it's the camera, but you're still controlling it at that moment as Chris, and I thought that was like the coolest angle they used, and I don't even think Resident Evil's ever done something like that.
Yeah, because I think like with Until Dawn, again, like the entire point is that game is a throwback to 90s slasher films, and also like, you know, the big horror movies of the period, you know, Nightmare on Elm Street. And also early 80s, so Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, I Know What You Did Last Summer, Scream, these are all the films that influence it. But at the same time, it kind of pays respect to modern day horror movies. Obviously, one of the biggest ones is Saw. The entire point is like Josh's character, where he's playing the games. Like, oh, Chris, I want to play a game. And it's like, you know, it's kind of like one of those things where it's like, you know, he is basically being Jigsaw at one point.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a great thing where it's got so many throwbacks to horror movies and like kind of paying so much homage to them, yet like kind of, you know, going to the next step. But yeah, the entire point is that like those kind of shots are, you know, principally done in horror movies. So they basically do them themselves. I mean, like, one of the things for me is I think Until Dawn is very much, you know, it is full of jump scares, which is a little bit cheap and also kind of like reasonable at the same time. Because I think it does have to rely on jump scares just because of what the game is, because when you realise what the kind of villains are and stuff, or the enemies, you kind of just a little bit like, yeah, it has to work like that. But it's, I mean, actually going on to this, I need to kind of drift away, but the main thing for me, like, I think the standout for me was the fact, like, do you know when, well, one is that Peter Stormare is the steal of the show. Like, he is just, the acting from him is brilliant as Dr. Hill. And the fact when Dr. Hill talks to you and he does the tests, and he basically gives you things like, do you, when you have to pick between the scarecrow and stuff, like, do you know what scares you the most?
Right.
If Hayden Panettiere escapes during that segment where Josh is chasing her, during the mannequin, it's dressed in the one that you're scared of.
Oh, right, yeah.
Jim, because you picked it and you're playing as Josh, that's meant to be a hint that Josh is the killer.
Right, and later on when you're Chris and you kind of like, you're trying to remember, it's right before Josh dies, supposedly. If you go off the path, that jump scare happens, and it's like that thing. Yeah, it's the
costume. Yeah,
yeah. So, that was actually, I wanted to talk about him. So, his character, Dr. Hill. You know, I agree with you. I think like that dude stole the fucking show. I mean, he's you know, obviously, he's like the best actor of the. Not to say it's a competition. I hate saying like best actor or something.
Well, I think sometimes it is a little bit of a competition between people, and that
it is.
I think that's one of the best. I think that's one of the best parts about when you assemble a Hollywood cast for a game, because it is like, you know, actors on the same level, like, you know, Ellen Page and Willem Dafoe. Like, it's almost like, you know, face-to-face competition. The fact, like, you know, who is the actor of the game, right? Because it's different with voice actors when it's like, you know, Troy Baker, Nolan North, and everything else. You don't really pick up on it, but when it's like, you know, when the motion captured like that and they have somebody like, you know, an ensemble cast of Hollywood A-listers or anything else, you kind of like look at it because it's like, who is the actor who's selling it here the most? Who's doing what they do for a living in video games and making it a believable experience.
I guess to the audience, yeah. I mean, I would hope that. I don't know. This is going to sound artsy fartsy, but and a little bit off topic. But I was going to say that sometimes when it comes to like you helping another actor out and stuff like that, I don't know. I feel like you should be like a family and stuff, and there shouldn't be competition. But yeah, I guess you're right. At the end of the day,
this is why you'd be Alfred and I'd be Bane in The Dark Knight Rises.
Alfred, is that what you said?